Nevada Construction Business and Law Manual, Chapter 4, Part 2. The information about civil penalties is intended as general description only and does not carry the force of legal opinion. This information can also be accessed in the following ways: telephone 702-523-8151, website www.osha.gov. OSHA regulations for hazardous materials. Hazardous materials and chemicals used in the construction industry are governed by OSHA regulations. State and local laws may apply also. Studies have been conducted which have shown that these chemicals and materials are not used according to the manufacturers. If these chemicals and materials are not used according to the manufacturer's instructions, they may cause illnesses such as cancer, respiratory ailments, or skin problems. Material Safety Data Sheets, MSDS. Safety Data Sheets, SDS. Material Safety Data Sheets, MSDS, or Safety Data Sheets, SDS, are safety information sheets prepared by manufacturers and marketers for materials that are suspected of being hazardous or for chemical containing toxic ingredients. MSDS, SDS will at times be included with the materials or can be obtained by requesting them from the manufacturer or marketer. Employers are responsible for ensuring that MSDS, SDS are available on the job site. OSHA regulations cover both storage and use of these materials in chemicals. Some of these substances are asbestos, tar-based products, vinyl chloride, various cleaning compounds, gasoline, etc. Products requiring MSDS sheets include such common items as paints, caulking materials, drywall finishing compounds, mud, etc. Additional information about the OSHA Hazard Communication Guideline for Compliance, which includes identifying hazardous chemicals in the workplace, and guidelines for compliance can be found here. Hazard Communication Guidelines for Compliance, https://www.osha.gov/publications/OSHA3111.html and www.atsdr.cdc.gov @@atsdrhome.html. MSDS, SDS may seem complicated and difficult to understand at first, but they are a reliable resource provided by manufacturers for finding necessary information about handling chemicals safely. For this reason, it is important for all individuals who are involved with a construction project to be able to use this resource to work more safely. The following table provides a short summary of the purpose of each section on MSDS, SDS to explain how the information on the sheet can help workers use hazardous materials more safely. Figure Form 5. MSDS, SDS explanation. Section number 1. Purpose gives details about the companies issuing the data sheet and often emergency call-out information. Section number 2. Purpose identifies the material and gives the registry number. Section number 3 summarizes the major hazards associated with the use of the chemical. Section number 4 outlines first aid measures. Section number 5 covers firefighting and protective equipment. Section number 6 outlines procedures to be followed in case of an accidental release of chemical, including methods to be used to clean up spills. Note that these are measures that are unlikely to be detailed enough if the chemical is particularly hazardous. Company procedures should be drawn up to supplement the MSDS guidelines. Section 7 contains information about the possible formation of peroxides in storage, flammability, explosive risks, etc. Pay particular attention to the possible need for flammable storage cabinets and also the need to avoid storage near incompatible chemicals. Section number 8 provides information on regulatory standards for exposure. the maximum permitted concentration of the material in the environment to which a person may be exposed. It also usually contains information on suitable types of personal protective equipment, or PPE. Section number 9 explains physical and chemical properties. Section number 10 explains stability and reactivity. Section number 11 outlines possible risks for exposure to the hazardous substance or chemical, provides details about the health effects that may result. This section should be read very carefully since the range of health effects may be broad and may include cancer-causing or sensitizer effects. Section number 12 explains environmental information and restrictions, warns not to allow material to be released to the environment without proper governmental permits. Section number 13 deals with disposal. If disposal is required after use, ensure that a responsible person has been trained to do this safely. Section number 14 gives transport information. Generally is a list of codes indicating the dangers associated with chemical, flammable, radioactive, very toxic, etc., and the type of transport that may be used. Section number 15 lists the hazard codes that indicate the principal hazards and the precautions that should be taken when working with the material. Section number 16 provides additional information such as the name of the person preparing the data sheet, a list of references from which the data have been drawn, disclaimers, etc. MSDS websites. There are many websites that provide examples of completed MSDS forms. One of these sites is Chemicals, see Appendix A. Some important safety procedures that should be followed in the construction industry when dangerous materials are used include these preventative actions. Hazardous materials should be stored in well-marked closed containers with proper ventilation for both the container and the area in which it is stored. Signs should be posted to indicate the possible danger involved and information about what should be done in case of an accident or spill. All employees who are authorized to handle the materials must be trained properly. This training must be part of the safety program and would include the appropriate posting of warnings and means of communication. Appropriate clothing and equipment must be available to both employees and visitors who work around or enter any area containing dangerous materials. This personal protective equipment would include face masks and goggles and other equipment such as respirators. Special equipment such as portable oxygen and defibrillators might also be considered. Equipment necessary for rapid cleanup should be available, as well as a disposal means for whatever is recovered. And notices must be posted with information about who to contact, including phone numbers and the circumstances under which various agencies would be notified. OSHA Hazard Communication Standard. The purpose of OSHA's Hazard Communication Standard 29 CFR 1910.1200 is to ensure that the hazards of all chemicals produced or imported are evaluated, and that information concerning their possible danger is made known to employers and employees. Topics covered include responsibilities of employers, terminology used by OSHA in the standard and other regulations, when employers must evaluate and identify hazardous materials, details of a written hazard program that should be developed by the employer, labels, tags, and or markings required on containers of hazardous materials, complete information about material safety data sheets, MSDS, and employee training information. To find more detailed information, the website is http://www.ilpi.com/MSDS/OSHA/1910_1200.html. Company Safety Program and Manual. Any contractor whose company hires employees should develop a safety program and maintain an up-to-date manual covering employees' safety procedures and policies. It's important that the information be explained clearly and completely in order to limit the company's future liabilities. Safety Manual. Generally, the contractor's insurance provider will require an industry-approved safety program for policies that cover general liability and workers' compensation issues. The insurers believe that Widespread use of safety manuals in the industry will provide a focus on safety that will reduce accidents and injuries, and thus help to contain both financial losses and losses in productivity. A company that provides a properly maintained safety manual to its employee can often receive discounts on premium costs from its insurance providers. These percentage discounts can be significant. Often, there can be additional incentives in the form of rebates for long-term successful safety results. For that reason alone, a contractor should plan to put a great deal of thought and effort into developing and maintaining the company safety program. The heart of the safety program is the company safety manual. There are a number of ways to acquire an industry-approved safety manual. Many insurance providers will supply the contractor with a basic safety policy that can be adapted to suit the company's needs. Many small or new companies find that this is a helpful way to establish a safety program. These companies might also use one of the many books that outline safety programs. This type of information is often available from federal, state, and local agencies. Owners of small or new companies can use information to develop a more comprehensive safety manual tailored to meet their needs. Larger companies often have considerably more exposure to liability and might have one or more individuals managing their safety programs, including writing and updating their own in-house manuals on a full-time basis. Most insurance companies will even require that a contractor include a safety manual for subcontractors with their subcontractor agreement. Typically, the contractor's attorney will recommend that they do this. Generally, the safety manual for both employees and subcontractors will cover the following primary areas: subcontractor or employee responsibilities, accident management, employee safety orientation, training requirements, personal protective equipment, safety meetings, hazardous material communication requirements, fall protection plan, basic safety rules, acceptance agreement, and an appendix of forms. An approved safety program will require that the safety manual be given to all new hires. It is advisable to require new employees to sign an agreement form before they start work. The agreement should indicate that the employees have received a copy of the safety manual and that they have read it before beginning work. Environmental safety. Environmental protection and safety have become important factors in our modern society. Contractors need to be mindful of these issues, especially in two major areas: protecting the environment in which the work is being done and providing a safe environment for their workers who are doing the job. Before starting a project, contractors should become aware of the environmental regulations that apply to protecting the site, as well as those that apply to their workers and all others who are involved in a project. In some situations, contractors can be held responsible for environmental damage, even if they're unaware that their actions caused the damage. That is another reason why it is so important that they train all their employees to follow sound environmental practices and to ensure that their subcontractors follow these practices as well. Most jurisdictions have enacted regulations covering burning, noise, dust pollution, and sedimentation control. The contractor should have a plan in place to lessen pollution, use resources wisely, and protect workers. Design the project to preserve the natural elements of the site wherever possible. Communicate and emphasize the need for safe environmental practices to all parties. Avoid the use of hazardous or toxic materials. Be careful of energy usage for operating and maintaining equipment. Use recycled materials if possible, and ensure that waste generated on a project is properly disposed of according to federal and state regulations. The consequences of not having an environmental plan or ensuring that all personnel follow it could create tremendous liability for the company, which might even result in the company's financial downfall. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. The Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, is responsible for enforcing and assuring compliance with environmental regulations and may delegate this responsibility to state governments. EPA's enforcement efforts focus on assisting businesses and communities with compliance training and guidance. The EPA's mission is to protect human health and the environment. Some of the areas for which governmental regulations and/or restrictions have been imposed include air quality, water quality, hazardous materials, solid waste disposal, and underground storage tank removal. For information about state environmental protection regulations, refer to Chapter 9, Business Requirements. Air quality. Although the 1990 Clean Air Act is a federal law covering the entire United States, the states do much of the work to carry out the act. For example, a state air pollution agency has the authority to fine a company for violating air pollution limits. Under this law, the EPA sets limits for the amount of allowable pollutant in the air anywhere in the United States. The law allows individual states to have stronger pollution controls, but states are not allowed to have weaker pollution controls than those set by the EPA. For contractors, a major air quality concern is the dust produced during construction that adds to the particulate matter in the air, creating air pollution. A simple solution to this problem is to wet the site down as often as necessary to keep air pollution from dust to a minimum. Inspectors who discover a problem on a site may respond in several ways depending on the severity of the problem. These enforcement actions might include warnings, corrective action measures, compliance orders, stop orders, or fines. Water quality. The National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, NPDES, permit program, authorized by the Clean Water Act, controls water pollution by regulating point sources that discharge pollutants into the United States waters. Point sources are such things as pipes or man-made ditches. Stormwater runoff from construction activities can have a significant impact on water quality, contributing sediment and other pollutants exposed at the construction sites. The NPDES stormwater program requires operators of both large and small construction sites to obtain authorization to discharge stormwater under an NPDES construction stormwater permit. Contractors need to be especially aware that solvents and other chemicals used in construction are not allowed to pollute the ground or water at or near the construction site. The development and implementation of stormwater pollution prevention plans is the focus of NPDES, stormwater permits for large and small construction activities. In most cases, the NPDES permit program is administered by authorized states. Many jurisdictions have passed erosion and wetland protection guidelines. It is important that the responsible individuals on the site are aware of all regulations concerning environmental protection. Asbestos. Asbestos is a mineral fiber that has been used commonly in a variety of building construction materials many years for insulation as a fire retardant. Since the EPA has banned several asbestos products and manufacturers have voluntarily limited its use, contractors presently will most often find this material in older homes where it was used in pipe and furnace insulation, asbestos shingles, millboard, textured paints and coating materials, and floor tiles. Exposure mainly occurs indoors as asbestos fibers are released. High levels of airborne asbestos can occur after asbestos-containing materials are disturbed due to cutting, sanding, or other remodeling activities. Improper attempts to remove this material can release asbestos fibers into the air, endangering individuals who come into contact with it. Workers who find asbestos on site should be trained to report asbestos location, but do not touch it. Only individuals who have the training and EPA certification for asbestos removal are allowed to handle this dangerous material. These specialists have learned the safe procedures to follow and correct personal protective equipment to use when working with asbestos. Long-term exposure to asbestos through inhalation can result in a lung disease called asbestosis. Exposure can also cause lung cancer and mesothelioma, a rare cancer of the thin membranes lining the abdominal cavity and surrounding internal organs. Lead hazards. The EPA has undertaken a major role in addressing residential and lead hazards. Lead is a highly toxic metal that was used for many years in products found in and around homes. Lead exposure may cause a range of health behavioral problems, including learning disabilities, seizures, and death. Children 6 years of age and younger are most at risk because their bodies are growing quickly. Since the 1980s, the EPA and its federal partners have phased out lead in gasoline, reduced lead in drinking water, reduced lead in industrial air pollution, and banned or limited lead used in consumer products, including residential paint. States and municipalities have also set up programs to identify, treat lead-poisoned children, and to rehabilitate deteriorated housing. Many residential and commercial buildings built before 1978 contain lead-based paint. Lead from paint chips and dust can pose serious health hazards if not handled safely. Renovations that do not follow the safety requirement for handling lead can release lead from paint and dust into the air. Contractors should not use a belt sander. Propane torch, heat gun, dry scraper, or dry sandpaper to remove lead-based paint. These actions create large amounts of lead dust and fumes. It is unlawful to fail or refuse to comply with EPA regulations. Contractors may obtain the following pamphlet from the federal government, Lead Safety During Renovation, which summarizes EPA's rules and lead-safe work practices. There are two types of penalties that might apply. A civil penalty of up to $37,500 per day for each violation, and a criminal penalty of up to $25,000 per day and imprisonment for up to 1 year if the violation has been committed knowingly or willfully. Federal law requires that the contractors provide information about lead to residents before renovating pre-1978 housing if more than 2 square feet of surfaces will be disturbed. Contractors are required to provide a copy of Renovate Right pamphlet to owners and occupants prior to starting work in pre-1978 housing. Contractors must also provide the Renovate Right pamphlet to owners and operators of child care facilities and schools built prior to 1978 and provide information to parents or guardians of children under the age 6 that attend. As an alternative to delivery in person, the contractor may mail the lead pamphlet to the owner and or tenant. The pamphlet must be mailed at least 7 days before renovation and documented with a certificate of mailing from the post office. New rules for contractors. Beginning in April 2010, contractors performing work that disturbs lead-based paint in homes, childcare facilities, and schools built before 1978 must be EPA certified and follow specific work practices to prevent lead contamination. The EPA has made the following distinction between lead abatement and renovation. Abatement means that the work is designed to permanently remove lead-based paint hazards, including contaminated dust and soil, and renovation means the work involves repairing, restoring, or remodeling the structure but does not permanently eliminate the lead paint-based hazard. The National Lead Information Center, NLIC, provides information about lead hazards and their prevention. To receive information, contact the NLIC on the internet at the following website address or call the 800 number below. Hazardous waste disposal. The EPA regulates the management and disposal of hazardous waste under the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, RCRA. Congress passed RCRA in 1976 to ensure that hazardous waste is safely managed from generation to disposal. In 1984, Congress updated RCRA by prohibiting land disposal of certain hazardous wastes, and as a result, the EPA developed the Land Disposal Restrictions Program, LDR. The EPA sets treatment standards for all hazardous waste bound for land disposal. These treatment standards ensure hazardous waste is properly treated to destroy or immobilize hazardous chemical components before it is land disposed. Different types of solid waste are regulated as hazardous if they are included on a specific EPA list or if they exhibit one or more of the following characteristics: catch fire readily, corrode steel, explode readily, or have toxic components. The company that generates the waste must always inform the receiving treatment, storage, and disposal facilities of the status of the hazardous waste and ensure that it is handled safely. The LDR program impacts many small and large businesses that generate, store, transport, treat, and dispose of hazardous waste. If a business produces more than 220 pounds of hazardous waste or 2.2 pounds of acutely hazardous waste in a calendar month, it must properly identify the waste and determine if it has to be treated before land disposal. Underground storage tanks. In the late 1980s, the EPA established the Office of Underground Storage Tanks, OUST, to enforce federal laws that control environmental contamination from petroleum products. Underground storage tanks, UST systems installed before December 22, 1988, had no protection against spills or overflows and were likely to corrode and leak. OUST maintained that by December 22, 1998, all underground storage tank systems were to be prevented from contaminating nearby groundwater and soil. Existing UST systems were to be protected from spills, overflows, and corrosion, or replaced with new systems incorporating such protection. OUST has recommended specific EPA methods for underground storage tank applications. States have the primary authority to implement UST requirements. A majority of the states still use these methods, but many states have developed their own methods for UST analysis. Thank you for being here for part 2 of chapter 4. Please check out chapter 5 of the Construction Business and Law Manual of Nevada.